Good morning. I'm currently in Winchester, which, if you didn't know, used to be the ancient capital of England. Right, before I actually explore Winchester, let me give you a quick history lesson on why this used to be the ancient capital of England. So, back in the Saxon times, so I'm talking well over 1,000 years ago, England as we know it didn't exist. It comprised of small kingdoms. And the biggest kingdom was Wessex, and also probably the most powerful kingdom. Its capital was Winchester. Now, a capital city in those days was very different to a capital city what it is now. It's usually where the king sort of resided. It's where the main bishop lived. It's where the main courts were. But it wasn't as important as it is these days. There was this king called King Alfred the Great, who you've probably heard of, especially if you're from the UK, and he had this goal of uniting all these small kingdoms together to form one large kingdom. Sadly, King Alfred died before he achieved this goal, but his grandson did it instead, Ethelstan, in I believe 927 AD, and when he united all the kingdoms to become King of England for the first time, he made Winchester the capital of England. And so it continued being the capital of England for about 100 years or so, until that famous year 1066 when William the Conqueror came over and conquered the whole of England. And then slowly over time he made London, which at the time was the biggest city. He started moving all the important buildings to London, so the treasury moved, he built a new palace in London, and slowly over time London became the capital city. It wasn't really a set date, but most historians say London became the official capital city of England in around the 12th century. Also, notice I say England. Winchester was only the capital of England. It was never the capital of the UK, because the UK, as we know it today, didn't actually exist until sort of the 1700s, when Ireland, Scotland and Wales all joined with the Kingdom of England. Right, I hope you enjoyed that history lesson. Time to actually explore Winchester. By far the most famous thing about Winchester is its cathedral, which, as you can see, it's quite a big cathedral. Apparently, it's one of the largest Gothic cathedrals in Europe. And of course, any visit to Winchester wouldn't be complete without going inside. Before you go inside the cathedral, you have to purchase a ticket for £13.50, which, if I'm being honest, is very excessive for visiting a cathedral. But I guess on the positive side, the ticket is valid for a year, so you can visit as many times as you want with the same ticket. One of the most famous things about Winchester Cathedral is the sheer number of historical figures that are buried there. Arguably, the most famous of these is Jane Austen, the famous British author, whose most well-known book is probably Pride and Prejudice. There are also some mortuary boxes in the middle of the cathedral, which contain bones from some of the old kings, such as Canute and William II. Another interesting aspect of the cathedral is the crypt, which often floods during winter. This happily coincided with my visit, so I got to see the flooded crypt even if the water levels were slightly on the lower side. Finally, there's also an exhibition you can visit, which gives a bit more of an insight into the history of the cathedral, as well as containing the Winchester Bible, which was made almost 1,000 years ago. About a 10-minute walk away from the cathedral is Wolseley Castle, which is completely free to visit. Not that there's much to see, it's pretty much all just ruins. Apparently, this used to be the residence of the Bishop of Winchester, who, according to some sources, was the second most powerful man in Wessex after the King of Wessex himself. And you can sort of see why, just looking by the sheer size of his palace. Now that I'm inside the ruins, it's actually a lot bigger than I thought it was, and you can sort of see how much power the bishop must have had to own a place like this. So they've closed off a few bits where there's excessive wear, but despite this whole sort of castle being over 900 years old, it's in surprisingly good nick. So I'm currently walking along the River Itchen back towards Winchester High Street, and I gotta say, I don't know if it's the weather, but Winchester is a very, very pleasant city to walk around. So right at the end of the High Street, just by the River Itchen, is the statue of King Alfred the Great, probably one of the most popular people in the whole of the UK. My obsession for Winchester comes from this TV show called Last Kingdom. It's this fantastic drama series that's on Netflix. Well, it is at the time of filming this video. It's essentially about this guy called Uhtred. He was a Saxon boy who then got kidnapped by the Vikings when they raided his village, and then he grew up in a Viking sort of surroundings, and the whole series is about the conflict between his Viking upbringing and his Saxon origins. The other main character in the series is King Alfred himself. A lot of the series is actually based here in Winchester, which is why I knew a bit about it and why I wanted to see it for myself in person. On the note of King Alfred, bit of a fun fact. He's often considered one of the most popular kings of England, but he was actually never the King of England. He was only the King of Wessex. And whilst it was his goal to sort of create England, he never did it. It was his grandson who did it for the first time in 927 AD, King Ethelred. So him being the most popular king of England is technically a false statement. So if you come to Winchester on a Thursday, Friday or Saturday, there's a street market that goes right through the high street. There's a massive variety of stalls here, everything from food to wine to arts and crafts, so it's certainly worth checking out. Can't lie, that brownie looks very, very appetizing. I probably shouldn't have it, it's probably going to be full of sugar. Guys, I have to confess, I ended up getting that brownie, and guess what? I don't regret it one single bit. Yes, it was incredibly sweet like I predicted, but you know what? Having a guilty pleasure once in a while, it's not too bad. With Winchester being the ancient capital of the UK, it might not surprise you to find that there was a castle here. Sadly, it's mostly in ruins, and the only thing that remains is this Great Hall, which you can enter, but you have to pay a ticket price of £8.50. Now, some of you watching this video may have heard of King Arthur. Well, the legend of King Arthur and his Round Table of Knights. Apparently, inside the Great Hall, you can see that round table for yourself, so let's go inside and check it out. So on the back wall here in the Great Hall, you can see some names on the wall, and you might be wondering what this is. Apparently, these are names of everyone who represented Hampshire in the Parliament. It's crazy that these names go all the way back to the 1300s. There it is, the supposed round table of King Arthur and his group of knights. It's actually massive. I don't know if it's coming across well on camera, but I guess he had 12 knights and he had to fit around it somehow. It's funny how well King Arthur is known and all his exploits, despite the fact there's no actual historical proof that he ever lived. I don't know, what do you guys think? So when you get your ticket to the Great Hall, you can also get a ticket for the Westgate Museum, which is literally a minute walk away. I'll be honest, the museum itself, there's not a lot going on, but what it does give you is this rooftop from which you can see directly into the high street. Apparently, this is Britain's oldest high street. Well, I guess that brings an end to my time here in Winchester. Hopefully by watching this video, you've seen how beautiful and historical this city is. Yes, there's not a huge amount to do, but if you're a bit of a history geek like me, it's well worth visiting, especially if you live in like the south of England. It's a very quick and easy day trip. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Stay safe, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.